Morning, everyone. So obviously the reason you came here today was to listen to me talk about insurance, the biggest draw, I'm sure. But Rob Handy and I had a chat actually a couple of months ago just to start planning for this event and thinking about ways to make this a bit more interesting, actually draw people here and listen. I think one of the strategies we had in place was to remove the word insurance from the title, but we failed on that actually. Really, I'm looking to keep this light, keep it as simple as possible, and we've broken it down into bite-sized chunks. 10 tips. They might not all apply to you, but hopefully you have something at the end of this to take home that you will apply. You know, everyone purchases insurance. Every gym has to purchase insurance, and hopefully at the end of it you'll have one or two key takeaways that are really valuable and are going to help you going forward as well. One of the things I promised to do today is keep this as jargon-free as possible and in simple terms that everyone can understand. So we have a bit of a reputation in insurance for using jargon, using terminology that no one understands. I will do my best to avoid this. To keep me in check, I have actually bought a little device which is going to do this. So, does anyone know a bullshit buzzer? Let's check if it works.
Bullshit detected. Take precautions.
So I'm going to give this to someone. Matt, you can be. There you go. Face, I know. Yeah. Be kind. If I go off track and I'm not sticking to that, please feel free to press it. So just before I launch into this, just a quick introduction about who I am and who Partners and are and what we do in the fitness sector. So I've been working in insurance for about 15 years now, and pretty much all of that has been working with the fitness sector and working with gym owners. So really I am heavily embedded in this sector. I was involved in a company, Independence, which has now become part of Partners and. Independence has over 20 years experience of looking after gyms and health clubs across the UK. So it's really what we do and what we specialise in. I now have a role which is responsible for the wider leisure sector, so we're looking at other businesses, but still predominantly gyms and health clubs are the core business that we do. We currently insure over 800 gyms across the country, and we obviously have some key partnerships within the sector. So Independent Gyms Group being one of those key ones, and we're also a strategic partner of UK Active. One of the big focuses we have is around the risk management side. So we try to help our customers manage their risk better. It's not just about purchasing an insurance product. If you can prevent claims from happening, then you're in a much better position. It's one of the points I'll touch upon during this talk. And one of the other things I'd just highlight is we've always focused really on the independent sectors. We don't really look after the big chains. We do limited amount within the leisure trust. So independence is absolutely a core market for us. Of those 800 gyms, over 600 of those are independent businesses like yourself. So that's a key market. I think I mentioned this last time when we came here, but the independent market is the one I like dealing with. I find that the gym owners are really passionate, attached to what they do, and so it's great. It's a great pleasure to be here talking to you this morning. So just as a start point, I want to address this subject: why is insurance and why is getting it right more important now than ever? One of the things we're coming across now is what's called the hard market in insurance. I'll explain that before I get buzzed, actually. So the hard market is when there's fewer insurers interested in writing business. There's difficulty in investment into the insurances, so capacity gets reduced. Less insurers are writing the business at the time. And what that means is costs go up and availability of insurance comes down. And this is an issue for businesses across all sectors, but leisure in particular is being affected by this at the moment. So it is important to get this right, to avoid cost spiraling and avoid potentially being uninsurable as well. The other key point, obviously, over the last 18 months, your businesses have changed as well. And we've seen that. There's been lots of innovation, there's been lots of developments, there's been a need to change, partly driven by COVID, but also driven by other factors. And as your business change, your requirements change as well. So it's important we stay on top of those. So we'll launch into the first tip, which is how to hack this hard market. The key for me really is starting that buying process early. We do find, and I was having a chat with Tom, who works with me here, saying how great the gym owners that we work with are, but one of the biggest challenges we find is that often leave things to the last minute. You need to start this process early because insurers are generally less interested in the sector than they were previously. There's not the same level of competition, and they don't have the same capability of insuring the number of risks. So you really need to start early and put yourself at the front of that queue. That's partly the responsibility of the broker or the advisor that you're using, but you can drive that process as well. Then you're going to have some concerns that the insurers might have about your business. They might be concerned about your experience as an owner. They might be concerned about some claims. Something will come up during that process, so you need to address those concerns, but you can only do that if you started that early. If the process starts late, there's not the time to do that. And that should enable you to, having satisfied their concerns, secure better rates. But once you've done that, it's not a process that is just once a year for those few weeks that you're working on your insurance. Try to stay in touch. As I say, your business develops, and you need to be moving with that as your business develops over time. My next tip really is to get a specialist policy. If you don't have one of these, if you purchase insurance from your bank, from Direct Line, from Premier Line, or any of the general things that are out there at the moment, the chances are you don't have the right cover for your needs. And that could lead to one of a few possible outcomes. Probably the policy is not tailored to your activities, so it's not covering you adequately for what you do. But you might also be paying for other covers that you simply don't need, so you might actually be overpaying. And one of the frustrations we come across for gym owners that have been with one of those more general insurance offerings out there is that you just get a whole list of questions asked to you that just aren't at all relevant. You might get asked whether you work airside or whether you work with tunnels, or all these general questions that insurers ask, which are nothing to do with operating a gym at all. But if you're working with a specialist, then the chances are they're going to be asking the right questions to understand your business properly. And one of the other benefits you'll get at the end of going on to a specialist policy, hopefully they have a streamlined claims process as well. So again, when it comes to the event of a claim, that crucial moment, they do actually understand what you do, and they can make that claims process a little bit easier on you. One example of that really is if you have an injury within your gym, you're going to have someone come out and visit and ask you questions. If they don't know about the operation of a gym, they'll probably spend the first hour of that meeting actually trying to understand your business and what you do. So it's a lot of time wasted before you actually get into the key detail of it. So the next one is gold-plated on public liability. Gold-plated, sorry, on public liability. Public liability is the area where you're going to get probably the highest number of claims for your facility. We're all familiar with the claims culture that's growing and growing within the UK. And if you don't get the right covers in this area, then there's a chance there's going to be a gap. One of the key things which is crucially important for gyms to do more and more now is the level of advice that you give to your clients. And that's a major selling point for many of your facilities. But there are many policies out there that don't provide cover for that advice that's being given. They may specifically exclude it, or they're not providing that cover. That's a key one for you, so make sure it has the wrongful advice cover in there. Also, injury from one member to another member, the member-to-member liability. And if you're providing any treatments, if you have sunbeds, anything like that, again, most policies generally will exclude those. You need to make sure that you're providing, that you have the right provisions for those as well. These are generally things, so going back to the first point, if you have a specialist policy, they should be covered. We've been doing this for, for 20 years now, but I've been doing this for 14 years. When I first started out, most of the other policies out there in the market didn't have these things. We bought them in pretty early, and over time, the market's caught up. But we're still seeing policies without these key things. Obviously, the online workouts now, obviously a lot of gyms have moved towards a hybrid model and have a digital fitness offering. Again, it's really important that you check that point, that it is covered there. And also if you're taking people off-site, doing running clubs, doing boot camps outdoors and so on, that needs to be covered. Right, so we're going to talk about business interruption. I'm going to be brave and mention the word. See, I think, is it not? So, I need to firstly address the elephant in the room, which is business interruption cover, and the fact that a lot of you were massively disappointed and frustrated over the way this has been handled by the insurance industry. I don't speak for the whole insurance industry. I'm a broker, and it's difficult for me to talk for the whole sector, but obviously our reputation as a sector has been massively damaged, and a lot of gym owners have been particularly frustrated with this whole process. But what we've heard as a result of the fact that COVID claims haven't been paid is people are looking to potentially cancel or get rid of their business interruption insurance. Please do not do this. Business interruption insurance prior to COVID was the biggest area of claims that we had. Over 50% of all claims costs related to business interruption. So it's still an area that's massively used. It could result, could happen as a result of a fire, water damage, burst pipes, a flood. There's lots of different causes that do trigger business interruption claims, and those businesses are only able to survive when they've got the right cover. So our biggest tip really around the business interruption cover is make sure that you've got a long enough period to cover that. We would say a minimum of 18 months for any business. Larger facilities or something more complex will need longer periods of business interruption cover as well. Some of the factors you need to take into account are things like the planning delays. So if your worst case scenario, the building burns to the ground, you have to take into account the time it takes to get all that debris removed, the planning in place, source all your kit again and get everything up. So this cover is for that catastrophe scenario, but unfortunately we have had incidents where it has happened, and luckily the cover's been there and enabled those businesses to get back up and running and make a full recovery over time. One of the other things we just want to mention is just about using the added benefits of a policy. So these are sometimes things that are thrown in at the back and you may or may not be aware of them, let alone use them. But if you do have added value, make sure that you're actually extracting that from the policy. So one of the common benefits that you will have within a policy is some kind of advice line. That could be health and safety support, it could be HR, it could be legal, but those helplines may be really valuable to you as a small business. And do check with your advisor before purchasing that policy what type of added value they are actually offering, because you may find that there are some very useful things. We actually have within our offering a health and safety advice line, which or health and safety and HR advice line. but that does actually provide online support, phone lines and so on. So it is a really useful benefit. Sometimes people are paying additional money to a separate third-party company for the same services as well. So it's really worth looking into that, and you're actually getting far more value out of your insurance by using that. So number 6, which really relates back to the changes in your business, is be agile. What we're finding is the gym industry, gym sector is on the move again. This was from Leisure Opportunities last month, which showed that 338 gyms have opened since March 2019. So in spite of the pandemic, we're still seeing higher numbers of gym openings, and we're starting to see those coming back in now, which is great news for the sector. What that does mean is gyms, some of you are expanding. I was speaking to people at the last conference that were planning acquisitions of facilities and so on. So if you're in that mode, you need to think about what impact that's going to have on your insurances as well, and tackle those early before the actual requirements arise. So you need to adapt your business model. You need to adapt your policy around your business model, not please don't. should definitely not be the other way around. Insurance should really fit around what you do, and that's why you need to get the advice of someone that can then tailor your policy to fit what you're doing. So one example, I've touched upon this already, but digital platforms coming in and being more frequently used. Not only does that mean that you need to make sure your public liability covers that, but also have you thought about what the cyber risk is as well attached to that, in terms of the interruption to your business, the hacking of your data, and what happens if that does arise. Have you mitigated those risks, and have you insured them as well? Obviously, where there is growth, you're going to need to adapt and add sites onto your policy if you're opening new facilities. But if you're also diversifying your activities as well, so you might be changing to doing outdoor activities, you might be putting in rooms for physiotherapists or whatever the offering is. You've changed your business in some way, that then should trigger you to think, I need to contact my insurance advisor and just check this is already covered, or what change to the policy do I need? There's a couple there at the bottom. Hopefully we've been through the worst of the redundancies in terms of how COVID's affected that. But if you are changing that, that will definitely have an impact on your directors and officers cover, and potentially your other insurances as well. So if there's any change like that as well, please do flag those ones up. Now, I mentioned before about the importance of risk management, and particularly in this hard market where insurance is more difficult to purchase at the moment. I can't emphasize this enough. The better your claims experience will be, the better chance you have of negotiating a lower premium. That's always been the way and always will be the way. That doesn't mean you'll be completely unaffected by increases in the market, but you will be less affected and you'll be in a better position to negotiate if you have no claims or low claims. And insurance is there to deal with unfortunate events that you can't control, but what you don't want to have is those ones where you could have done something about it, and you were inactive and didn't identify risks, didn't control them, and therefore a claim has happened. In particular, focusing around the health and safety side, a lot of public liability claims can either be prevented, or with good quality risk management, you put yourself in a position where you can defend those claims, and therefore that improves your overall claims experience. So at Partners And, we've actually written a simple risk management guide. It is available on our stand today. You can scan the QR code and access that. So it's a 52-page guide, which is broken down into nice little sections, including how to manage things around outdoor classes, or if you do 24-hour opening or anything like that. So really recommend, even if you're not a client of ours, accessing that to get some additional information on it. So we say seek expert advice. The risk management guide is just one step in that, but you may need, depending on the complexity of your requirements, some external support in properly managing your risks. And also, don't forget your people. So many businesses identify their people as their most important asset, but they do little to protect those fully. And you may be doing things to look after your people from a day-to-day perspective within your businesses, but perhaps you haven't thought about some of the wider points that could impact on that. So it is also, as much as it's your most valuable asset, it's therefore your biggest risk to the business as well if something does happen. Health and well-being is a huge topic at the moment, hugely important. Obviously, as gym owners, you're helping other people, other businesses to with their own health and well-being, but really important that you focus on your own people as well and make sure they have that. Now, mental health has become a really important issue. Whilst exercise is one of those ways of dealing with that as a duty holder and as a business, you may have an obligation and a responsibility to provide more support than that during very challenging times as well. So one of the tools available is what's called an EAP, which is an employee assistance program. And that can actually be something that you can implement at relatively low cost, which is effectively a support line where staff can contact and have someone to talk about their various issues, which could be stress counselling and those kind of services that are offered. But you need to think about these things in terms of the well-being, not just checking in every day, but making sure that they've got someone else that they can speak to and get support on there. From a positive point of view, getting this right helps with your recruitment and your retention as well. So it's not just about mitigating the risk, but how this can benefit your business, and actually making sure that staff have the right training as well to protect them as well. One of the other key bits really is identifying the key people within your business. So who are those people that are essential? If they weren't there, the business would suffer. Income would suffer, or a key function of the operation would really struggle. And if you think about that, how are you protecting those properly? There is a way via insurance to protect the key people within your business. And because as gym owners, you may be reliant on one or two absolutely key members of staff, or it could be the owners themselves, that is a really big risk to your business if something was to happen. So at relatively low cost, it's a really good way of protecting your business going forward. And the other thing we'd say as gym owners is, or if you own shares in a gym, is make a company will. And you may be looking at me and thinking, what on earth is a company will? So the idea is that if there is more than one owner of the business, i.e. there's a partnership, or there are 3 shareholders in the business, let's say, for example, what happens when the worst happens to one of those shareholders? In simple terms, those shares would pass to their next of kin. So it could be their son, it could be their spouse. And that can cause huge problems in the running of the business going forward. Whilst you might have a great relationship with that person, you don't necessarily want them as your business partner. There is a simple solution to put this in place. I won't go into the full details of it now, but it's something to consider. Have you thought about what happens in these circumstances if something happens to one of the shareholders? So really what I'm looking to do is bring out some of these other risks to your business that you haven't perhaps considered, because the risk landscape is a lot more complex now than it was in 2019, and it continues to move that way. And the amount of money that you spend on insurance, you have to get value for that. If you're just focusing on certain things, you're not necessarily generating the maximum value out of that spend. So you can cut back in some areas, really focus on what's important to you as a business owner. And the final tip, which kind of links all of these together, is max out the advice that's available to you. If you use an insurance broker, like ourselves, but there are others that specialise in the sector as well, first, again, make sure that they do specialise in the health and fitness sector. But it's very unlikely they put any limits on the amount of advice that you can have from them. We don't. You know, if we get clients that call us every day, we answer those phone calls and we deal with those inquiries. But actually, we probably say that most of our clients don't call us enough. We'd like to hear from you more, and we'd like to give you more advice. So that advice is always available. We can tailor the cover to your business. We can deal with things that might come up around contracts and challenges there. If you're going through any major transaction, like if you're selling your business or buying another business, talk to us and deal with us, and we can assist you with that as well. Just one thing to be aware of here: there are some solutions that may look like they're an insurance broker and you're getting advice, but in the small print it does specifically state they are non-advised services. So just make sure when you're speaking to a broker that they are providing a fully advised service. Otherwise you won't get the benefit of this advice around your policy. So we have some additional resources that are available. We have the Recover brochure, which is our product. We've done a nice video just saying how businesses have adapted during COVID and how insurance has adapted. So you can see our boutique gyms video and the gym risk management guide as well. It'd be quite difficult to scan those now, so they're available over on our stand if you want to get access to those resources as well. And really, just to wrap it up, we'd love to help you. You know, looking around the room, quite a few of you are clients already, but if we don't work with you as well, please feel free to come over during the day, have a chat, and we can see how we will be able to assist you going forward as well. So on that note, I'd just like to thank you for listening. I think we got through, and I tried to make those as light and understandable as possible. I think I got buzzed once, but I did the trick of switching it off before I actually passed it to Matt, so I'm all right. So thank you very much. Hope that was interesting, and any questions now, I'll be happy to take them.